When an excavation team finally broke through the heavy stone seals of King Tutankhamun's tomb in the 1920s, the thrill of the discovery was quickly overshadowed by a string of sudden, unexplained deaths. Members of the expedition began dying from bizarre infections, strange diseases, and freak accidents. The public was captivated by the sheer volume of wealth pulled from the dark: chariots, thrones, and a death mask cast in pure gold. To the global press, the narrative wrote itself. The dead king was reaching out from beyond the grave to punish the intruders with a supernatural curse. These vertical columns of hieroglyphs found inside the tombs contain explicit warnings of disease and suffering. To an Egyptian, carving these threats into stone was a practical security measure, a frontline defense designed to repel anyone targeting the resting place of a king. To understand why they went to such extremes, look at how they viewed existence. Mortal life in Egypt was treated like a temporary waiting room. The true reality, the eternal, permanent life, only began after you stopped breathing. This is why they isolated their most important dead far away from the lively banks of the Nile. They dragged them out into brutal, sun-scorched valleys like this one, burying them deep inside the rock to keep them hidden from the living. Achieving eternity didn't mean simply resting in peace. It required a gruesome physical transformation, building an impenetrable stone fortress and outsmarting demons in the dark. The entire Egyptian theological system hinged on one strict rule: a human soul will evaporate if it doesn't have a preserved physical anchor to return to after death. Preserving that anchor required a brutal 40-day biological process. Because the brain contains so much moisture, embalmers would insert a long, curved metallic hook through the nasal cavity, scraping the matter out. Next, they sliced open the abdomen to surgically remove the lungs, liver, intestines, and stomach. The only internal organ left inside the chest cavity was the heart. To the embalmers, the heart, not the brain, was the true center of intelligence, and it had to stay with the body for the afterlife. The extracted organs were dried and placed into magical containers called canopic jars. Notice the different animal and human heads acting as distinct spiritual guardians. With the corpse hollowed out, the final step was chemical dehydration. Embalmers packed the empty body cavity and covered the skin with a naturally occurring salt called natron, leaving it for over a month to draw out every drop of moisture. They then treated the skin with resin and honey, sealing the tissue to prevent decay. They had successfully hacked biology to create an immortal vessel. But a perfectly preserved body buried alongside a king's ransom of gold and supplies immediately became a massive target for thieves. The architectural solution to the grave robbing problem was brute force: hide the fragile vessel inside a colossal, impenetrable stone mountain. Beneath millions of tons of limestone, radar scans reveal a hidden network of descending tubes plunging 600 meters straight into the bedrock. These subterranean passages serve no clear structural purpose, and archaeologists are still debating the logistics required to carve them with such precision. The scale and orientation of the pyramids have spawned endless theories about their true purpose. Even Nikola Tesla studied their geometry, developing a theory that these structures generated and transmitted wireless energy across the planet. But the physical stones were only the first layer of defense. Priests added a psychological barrier, sealing the entryways with literal curses. They carved promises of starvation, horrific plagues, and eternal suffering for anyone who disturbed the sleep of the pharaoh. Grave robbers eventually developed their own terrifying countermeasure to bypass this magical security. Believing extreme violence could short-circuit the tomb's protective wards, thieves performed a child sacrifice outside the door, hoping to shatter the curse. Yet even if a pharaoh's physical body survived the ravages of time, the greed of thieves, and dark blood magic, their soul still had to face the deadliest gauntlet of all, down in the underworld. Locking the physical tomb was only half the battle. Down in the spiritual realm, the disconnected soul had to navigate a terrifying, pitch-black journey fraught with supernatural predators. The ultimate cosmic threat lurking in this darkness was Apophis, the god of chaos and destruction. The mythological terror surrounding Apophis is so enduring that when astronomers recently discovered a massive Earth-threatening asteroid hurtling through space, they named it after him. The wealthy secured their passage with a collection of ritual texts known as the Book of the Dead. These scrolls provided the soul with the specific incantations and secret names required to navigate the gatekeepers of the underworld. This ancient papyrus illustrates the final test of a soul's worth. Guided by Anubis, the god of death, the deceased had to place their heart on a massive golden scale. On the other side sat the feather of truth. If your heart was heavy with the weight of bad deeds, the scale would tip. Failing this judgment meant an absolute end. Waiting beneath the scales was Ammit, a hybrid monster with the head of a crocodile and the torso of a lion. If the heart tipped the scales against you, Ammit devoured it, ending the soul's journey and removing the individual from the cycle of existence. Outsmarting cosmic judges and avoiding the jaws of Ammit was the final desperate hurdle to unlocking an eternal paradise of abundance and peace. Today, the reality of these ancient monarchs looks very different from the lush underworld paradise they planned for. Instead of ruling for eternity in the realm of the gods, they rest under the harsh glare of a climate-controlled glass display. Because of their preservation methods, modern scientists can read their medical history straight from their flesh. We can identify a king who walked with a limp from polio, or map the exact dent on a skull that ended a pharaoh's reign, diagnosing their ancient ailments thousands of years later. They spent immense fortunes and mobilized entire populations to build impenetrable survival machines for the afterlife. Instead of hiding them forever, those very machines turned them into permanent, highly visible fixtures of the modern world. Their curses were psychological traps, and their underworld gods were myths. But by turning their bodies into leather and entombing themselves in mountains of stone, the ancient Egyptians forced the future to remember them. Through their terrifying ingenuity, they actually did achieve immortality,